Hi, this is Tom Shanahan of SpiritualAdrenaline.com. I'm here today with Charles West in his studio in Midtown Manhattan for Divine Spark Healing and Coaching. Charles, thank you for coming out. This is part two of our two-part interview with you. And on part one, we talked about your years of active addiction and then coming out of active addiction. And you've been in, now 13 years, going on 13 years sober. So tell us about the period after you relocated back to New York, about a year and a half into your sobriety up till now.
Yeah, I had about a year and a half of sobriety, and I realized that I had a life again. I couldn't believe it. But then the question was, what do I want to do with it? So I had been living in Miami, and I realized I wanted to move back to New York, and I wanted to get back to performing and get back to the creative community of New York City. And so I followed all the guidance and things that people told me to do, like to plant your recovery solidly in this new city. And I did that. And it has served me really well.
And over those years, did you develop strong spiritual tools?
Yes.
That helped guide you? Okay. Tell us about those.
Well, one of the main things, in order to be able to develop the solid spiritual tools, I like to think of them as spiritual muscles. I had to get out of my own way. I had to let go a lot of the old thoughts that I had about God, about meditation and prayer, and I had to stop selling myself short. I was selling myself short. I was capable of doing more than I even realized that I could. And so I really threw myself into meditation. I threw myself into service. I threw myself into prayer. And as I began to do that, my whole life continued to expand. And I felt I wasn't on shaky ground anymore. But
that foundation was rattled somewhat when, out of nowhere, you were diagnosed with cancer.
With cancer, yeah. Yeah.
How many years were you sober at that point?
Almost 12.
And were there any symptoms or any?
None at all.
So what spiritual muscles did you rely on when out of nowhere you were diagnosed with cancer?
All of them. All of them. Oh. Well, I was lying in the hospital bed, and the surgeon came in and told me what they had discovered. And it was clear to me, there was a resounding voice inside of me that said I was going to be able to call upon all of the spiritual muscles that I had built in the previous 12 years, all of the fellowship that I had built, the prayer, the meditation, and also, most importantly, I was going to have to be genuine with the process of whatever it was that was to come.
You know, that's an amazing journey, and I think that diagnosis, if it had happened to me or any other human being, could really have rattled their own foundation in recovery. And one of the reasons you're here is because Charles will be sharing with you the spiritual muscles that he used to overcome that diagnosis. And since then, you've expanded upon
and
transcended. And so he's going to be sharing his tools and spiritual muscle with you here at Spiritual Adrenaline. If you're interested in learning more about what Charles is doing, you can check out his website at divinesparkhealing.net. Charles, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.